LGBTQ is an acronym for lesbian, gay, bisexual, gender, and queer and is non binary. That means that the person does not identify the self as man or woman. The Indian mythological figures on the model of Ardhanarishvara, where the gods with their consorts occupy one half of such each as an androgynous whole. Ardhanarishwar is a combination of three words, Ardh, Nari and Ishwar, which means half, woman and lord, respectively, which when combined means the lord whose half is a woman. It is believed that the god is Lord Shiva and the woman part is his consort, goddess Parvati or Shakti. Though Hindu mythology does not speak about homosexuality directly but mentions homoerotic encounters, change of sex, and intersex and third gender characters in the Puranas, Vedas, Mahabharata, and Ramayana. The most popular among them is Shrikhandi in Mahabharata, who was born as a daughter to Drupad but raised as a son. And Arjun too lived a life of gender variance. On the subject of LGBTQ, we realize that Indian cinema had a checkered past with the diversity and inclusion and has failed to fully represent the Indian LGBTQ community and its people and their identities and the narratives around them. Mainstream Indian films featuring gay and lesbian characters have often been marred by tokenism and naive stereotyping. Although recently, mainstream Indian cinema Badhai Do walked away with maximum Filmfare Awards, including for the best storytelling and the screenplay. But such films are very few and far between. Time and again, what has emerged that theme of LGBTQ is cynically reductive and even regressive. Badnaam Basti, Fire, My Brother Nikhil, Memories in March, Margarita with the Straw, Aligarh, Muthun, etc. are such films, to name the few that address the issue. Indian writers too have been addressing the issue. In 1927, Pandey Bechyan Sharma, better known as Ugra, wrote a Hindi collection of 8 stories about same-sex love called Chocolate. Ismat Chughai's Urdu lesbian fiction Lihaf came out in 1942. Kamla Das's autobiography Ante Katha, published in Malayalam in 1973, is well known. As a society, we often start living by considering all the beliefs to be true in many cases. We become so convinced by accepting the tradition that people start challenging it with new and old facts. Then we feel that we have never heard such a thing. What the others are saying is not worth listening to, and believe that there is nothing bigger than the dharma. That is why, when Supreme Court called homosexual relations a crime, the organizations fighting against those who considered it a crime for 15 years stood up against it. But this fight is not only against the Supreme Court and the associations, but also against those who have perceptions against it, those mindsets challenging it. The fight has become a matter of controversy not only in India but all over the world. It is complicated at many places and has been resolved at many places. And sometimes the decision of the court challenges the thinking of the society, and sometimes it seems to be the branch of the same thinking and also becomes one. Hence, serious but simple issue, which is a human issue like LGBTQ, have the hallmark of being controversial and has transpired as one of the most important disputes of a society because there is no debate on the sexual rights of some people. This debate explores the belief of knowledge science, connecting with the basic ideals of the Indian Republic, and in the process it also turns the very old pages of civilization and culture on many occasions. But it is also very important to think that in today's time, why it is always necessary for us to look back towards mythology or tradition to take a decision on any need. The Supreme Court's decision that consensual same-sex relationships between two adults is a criminal offense. Now, if we take a brief look into the legal angles, in the year 2009, Delhi High Court passed a ruling that same-sex relations are not a crime and is not constitutionally valid. Government should take legislative initiatives to remove Section 377. The Supreme Court also said that the High Court has ignored the fact that in 150 years, less than 200 people have been punished under this law, cannot be rejected on this basis. The irony is that homosexuality in India is not a crime, but gay marriages is illegal. This is an issue of relationships, an issue of respect, an issue of love, which people are still finding it difficult to understand and accept. The central government has filed an affidavit against it in the court. According to the central government, such marriages cannot be approved, which is not the concept of Indian tradition, which they say is unnatural. It was told in the affidavit that Indian family consists of husband and wife and their children. They believe that gay marriages is contrary to Indian tradition and opposite sex marriages is the only norm to be followed. Hoshang Merchant calls it, the erotic notion is that queer sexuality is not Indian. And secondly, it is against the Indian tradition and culture. There has been a lot of criticism of this decision of the Supreme Court. The number of supporters has also increased a lot. But when the Supreme Court itself considers it a crime, some people gave this example that even in the cases like 2G, the Supreme Court took initiative and took more initiative than why not in this case. According to the 2013 decision of the Supreme Court as the guardian of the Constitution, it is the responsibility and the duty of the court to protect the national interests and the larger public interests. There is no question of morality and righteousness, but how can one's private life be illegal? The government submitted that same-sex marriage is an urban elitist concept that undermines religious and social values. But the point is, the urban people has a voice, whereas people from the remotest part of the country don't have any voice of their own. The top court said that there is no absolute concept of a man or a woman, and gender is far more complex than the genitals. However, sexuality and gender is an innate concept and can't be reflected to the geography or to a particular class. Since we are talking about the minority where a lot of people are suppressed in fear of discrimination, the petitioners insisted on the right to equality and dignity, where the right to choose the partner is the right to expression. Socially, there has been changes with more acceptance and sensitive depictions on popular culture in TV shows and movies. In the fight for recognition, in 2022, Supreme Court offers protection to atypical families. In 2018, Supreme Court strikes down Article 377, decriminalizes homosexuality. In 2017, sexual orientation was included under right to privacy. In 2014, Supreme Court lays groundwork to legally recognize transgenders. The Special Marriage Act of 1954 talks about the civil forms of marriage for those exempt under personal law. When we talk about fundamental rights, then right to marry persons of choice have been guaranteed under Article 21. Petitioners claim that barring same-sex marriage violates their rights. The argument is whether same-sex marriage should be made, because every single person belonging to a social, economic and political spectrum possesses the right. Almost 30 countries and territories have enacted national laws allowing gays and lesbians to marry, mostly in Europe and America. Currently, India is on the wrong side of gay rights history. UN vote, should those with same-sex spouses be given equal treatment? India opposed along with Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Iran, Syria, Russia and China. India could have chosen to abstain from the voting but could not and voted against it. We all ponder over the reason behind the brain drain. The reasons often quoted as real behind brain drain in India is A. Caste-based quotas that applies to all from any stream of knowledge. B. For those who possess technical proficiencies or belong to science background, for them the reason lies in low industrialization that minimizes opportunities for the aspirants. And C. However, one more reason for brain drain in the past few years has been less liberal LGBTQ laws that has led to gay brain drain of people from reputed technical and high-skilled institutes like IITs, IIMs, IISc, IISER, NLU, dedicated to the nation, often have been forced to secure their future and freedom outside the country. Moreover, recently, petitioners arguing for marriage rights for millions of people from LGBTQ community, where 52 peer collective groups across various colleges and universities have written an open letter to the Chief Justice of India to take cognizance and recognize the rights to marry irrespective of class, caste, gender, sexuality, and others in line with Article 14 of the Indian Constitution that reads as, "The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India." Now, the LGBTQ community from these prestigious institutions wrote that the constitutional wheel of life is broken for us. Accepting alternative sexualities. There has been a reported experience of discrimination against lesbian, gay, bisexual, gender, and queer adults. Right to marriage matters at the emotional and the practical level, where allied rights linked to the concept of marriage, like starting a family or adoption, or more financial issues like joint accounts, group insurance, gift tax accessible to other married couples, cannot be accessed to gay married couples as well. At the emotional level, it would lend legal protection to the gay couples from social indiscrimination and eradicate social stigma and ostracism. Hence, the court should make spouse gender neutral, and the right to make fundamental choices are some of the issues pertaining to this community. Discrimination in healthcare and other domains related to the sexual orientation is another major concern. A key social group that faces systematic exclusion for healthcare in India is the LGBTQ community. There is no public data on the exact number of gender and sexual minorities in the country. However, in 2018, it was estimated that 104 million Indians, or 8% of the total population, belong to the LGBTQ community. Despite its sizable numbers, the difference in health outcomes for LGBTQ citizens indicates the prevalence of exclusion in mental health, sexual health, or with COVID-19 vaccines. In the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination drive, LGBTQ people are facing additional barriers to access, as many of them do not have an acceptable photo ID. This is especially true of transgender people, whose documentation takes into account the sex and assigned to them at birth instead of the gender. For example, when it comes to transgender people, almost 2/3 have no access to treatment for sexually transmitted diseases. While 7.2% of the transgender people are living with HIV, only 59% of them have been referred for testing and 33% have been given counseling about treatment options. In the survey conducted in South India, 24% said they were denied treatment, 16% said the doctor did not know how to treat their medical conditions, and 14% experienced physical and sexual assault from their health career professionals. Same-sex marriage should be viewed from the viewpoint of the interests and rights of the concerned people, as well as that of the society, family, and all others. The point is that it will bring down the divorce rates of straight marriages. Even when the individual comes out of the closet, their parents push them into normal marriage, hoping it will cure their sickness. And this pressure is so high that queer individuals end up succumbing to it. Government has opened an administrative steps that the government can consider for ensuring social security and other welfare benefits. Recently, the Apex Court has asked the government to mull the executive guidelines that can be changed to ensure certain benefits, such as opening joint bank accounts and nominating partners in life insurance policies, can also be extended to same-sex couples. However, young queer couples want to get married and not keep being treated as second-class citizens. I am sanguine that new sun will rise on the horizon with new leash of dignity and freedom for all. Thank you.